Gentlemen, hope you're all having an awesome day. It is 6:23 our time. I've got to do a chat with the client coming up here in about half an hour, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to get my day done today in the gym. I hope everybody's having an awesome day. I just wanted to put together a little video here, and the videos are going to be a little bit more frequent as we kind of try to kickstart this thing. And for some of you guys who've done the other challenges, some of these videos are going to be a little bit of a repeat. But I just want to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page and that I'm passing down the same things that are passed down in other challenges to some of the new people. And some of the people, this information is going to not necessarily matter because maybe you're at a level beyond here. But at the same time, I just want to make sure that I'm kind of passing around a lot of my different philosophies and things that I think are important when you're kind of starting the program. I want to talk about the number one thing that's at least important to me, and it was really cool that James kind of touched on it yesterday. Um, when I was younger, I didn't do this so much, but as I get older, I tend to do this a lot more. And what exactly that is it's doing a proper warm up when you get to the gym. So there's a couple of schools of thought. That's my cat meowing in the background. Apparently, it's time to go out. You're going to hear dogs barking. It's a farm here, so I apologize. Stretching and warming up. So when you get to the gym, particularly as we get older, now, I'm not old by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm 34 years old, and I'm not that same full of piss and vinegar, crazy little 21-year-old who would walk into the gym and throw weights around and could break a bone and be healed in 6 weeks. I'm just, as much as I don't want to admit it, as I get older, I tend to get a little bit smarter with my training. As I kind of talked about yesterday, we drop the weights. I do a lot slower contractions. But one of the things that I really find important to do, I'm going to let out the cat. Sorry, guys. This is it's an impromptu little video, but this is my life. Get out of here, Professor. Anyway, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was doing a proper warm up at the gym. Now, I always talk to you guys, and you're always going to hear me say there's lots of different schools of thought. There's lots of different studies that come out. And a lot of people are probably familiar with the study that says don't do dynamic stretching before the gym because it decreases the amount of power that you're able to generate. Now, once again, I've read a lot of different studies on this. Some seem to indicate that stretching for a long time with long periods of time prior to warming your joints up can either injure you because you haven't warmed your joints up yet, or can ultimately lead to decreasing your power and decreasing your strength. And then I've heard other studies that kind of contradict that say those studies were done with high-level sprinters, and the amount of time that it decreases your strength is not significant. So there's all sorts of different schools of thoughts. The one that I particularly like to adhere to, and it's just because I've used it my whole time and I've never been injured doing this, is I like to, first of all, there's two different types of stretching. You've got dynamic stretching, which is those long holds where you're holding, right? Dynamic, and you're holding 1, 2, 3, 4 for a period of 15 seconds or more. And then there's another type of stretching which is that's actually called static stretching. The hold is the static stretch, so static, no movement, I'm holding. And then there's dynamic stretching. And dynamic stretching for me has always kind of worked. I always do it before I go to the gym. I roll out my joints. I'm just going to give you a kind of a quick example of a dynamic versus a static stretch. And excuse me, I don't have a lot to work with here, but I'll do what I want to do, or I'll do what I can do. So in a dynamic stretch, a static stretch rather, where you're holding it, you're reaching down, you're keeping your back straight, and you're touching your toes, 1, 2, and you're counting off a specific period of time. So some people say that you can get injured. Some people say that it can reduce your strength. The type of stretching that I prefer to do is beforehand. It's called a dynamic stretch. And the dynamic stretch is just go down, touch, come up, down, touch, come up, down, touch, come up for maybe 10 to 15 reps. And what that does is it slowly warms up your joints, and it gets everything kind of moving. As well, I like to do a lot of rolling. This is the number one thing, particularly with squats and that kind of thing, that in my personal opinion, once again, I'm not a physician, but this is based on what I've experienced and a lot of what I've read, is making sure that you do a good rollout of all the joints. And it looks kind of silly. People will say whatever they want to say. It doesn't really matter. But I'll roll every joint, you know what I mean? My elbows, after I've done my dynamic stretching, where I'm just doing my touches, you know what I mean? I'm reaching up in the air, stretch, and then I'm kind of coming down, touching my toes, reaching up in the air, stretch. Once I've done about 5 minutes of that. I'm also going to make sure I roll out my joints, particularly when I'm squatting, particularly when I'm doing heavy movements. I'm doing arm circles, literally every joint. You want to move both directions, big circles, small circles. And one for me, particularly because I played a lot of rugby when I was younger and I've got a lot of damage to my knees. I'm going to see if I can show this to you. As I will reach down, I'll grab my knees, and it looks silly, but I'm just moving my knees in circular motions both ways. And I'm just allowing the joints to get warmed up. I'm allowing them to see some motion. And I'm doing that with every part of my body, everything from my wrist to my ankles to my neck, for example, although you're not supposed to, according to the experts, go like this. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be down here, here, here. But I'm really, really cautious to do that. That I absolutely recommend. Take the time, roll out all your joints, roll out your arms, circles, motions, get everything warmed up. And the reason why I've incorporated cardio into the before and the after. And as I said yesterday, it doesn't matter if you split it up according to the latest science. That could change tomorrow, but that's what I've read and that's my understanding. So I'll also do, at a minimum, I'll do a 10-minute little cardio session, right, after I've done all this. And that just ensures that when you go to lift these weights, your body's ready for it. You're going to be less prone to injury, and you're going to be ready to go. So that's just kind of, it's really important to stretch. It's really important to do those dynamic stretches. And what I might even do later on is actually record a full session of stretching for those who want it, and those who don't want it don't have to watch it or whatever. But it's really, really important. As we start to get a little bit older, it's important to take care of these things, because the truth of the matter is as I get older, it's less about being the biggest guy and ego lifting and tearing my shoulders out, and it's more about, like, how is this going to help me in the future? How is this going to be sustainable? You know what I mean? Like, when I have kids, am I going to be that 80-year-old grandfather who's running around with their kids in the park and I can still do everything? It's really boils down to preservation. You know, aesthetics are important, but what kind of a quality of life do you want to live as you get older? Ultimately, in my opinion, that's one of the most important things, right? How functional is your body? Can you do it when it matters? That's something we'll talk about later. So I really, really suggest you guys implement a good dynamic warm-up session, right? Make sure you roll out all your joints, you're rolling out absolutely everything, your knees, your ankles, you name it. Just big circles, both directions, get everything moving. And that's going to help reduce any injury. It's going to warm you up, and it's going to move you into your workout feeling fresh and ready to go, as well as the cardio. Get the heart rate moving, and by the time you get off the cardio, you've done some dynamic stretches, you've done some rollouts, you're ready to rock. Your body's warm, you're feeling good, you're going to be more effective at your workout, and you're less likely to get injured. So I really, really suggest you guys do that. Another thing, once again, guys, just a reminder, ego lifting. It's not about lifting heavy ass weight. Heavy ass weight is just going to get you injured, and I know this, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know this as well. We spent a lot of time at the gym, right? Lifting weight slowly with intention, right? And that's setting the intention to really feel the reps and that kind of thing. It's really, really important. I want to talk about, for some of you guys, if you're walking into a new gym, and I'm going to apologize in advance because sometimes I swear. You're going to catch a lot of that during the video. What you get is, like, what you see is kind of what you get with me. But I'm going to be real with you guys, and just for anybody who's kind of like maybe a little bit intimidated about starting a new gym routine, it's weird walking into a situation, like, if you're not used to working out. It's weird walking to a gym. There's all these, oh, is that guy in better shape than me? Is he, is that guy looking at me? And it's just this weird little microcosm. And eventually the messed up thing is that this intimidating little microcosm of society you'll actually become accustomed to, you'll actually get comfortable in, you'll meet friends, and it'll become a part of your life slowly. But I know it can be a little bit intimidating when you're first going back into it. Here's rule number one, and I'm sorry for being brash, and I'm sorry for saying this, but this is rule number one, guys. Fuck what anybody thinks. All right? This is not about anybody else other than you, yourself, your family, your health, and your longevity. Nobody has the right to judge you. Nobody has the right to give you a hard time. Nobody has the right to bully you. And 9 times out of 10, all those guys who you think are looking at you are just as nervous and just as out of place as you are. And that's something that I experienced. My God, I was a walking disaster of hormones and insecurity when I first walked into a gym, and now I'm just a walking disaster of insecurity. But when I first walked into a gym, I was always worried, well, am I lifting enough? That guy's lifting more than me. No, in the grand scheme of things, as I get older, I realize, like, none of that shit really matters, man. Because the truth of the matter is that it's about you, and it's about what you're doing, and anybody else's opinion really doesn't affect you. As long as you're being cool, make sure you're wiping down your equipment, make sure you're being courteous. You know, if somebody wants to work in with you, you know, accommodate that. You know, obviously don't be a jerk when you're at the gym, but if you're just kind of doing your thing and you've got your, you know, you're in your own headspace and you're having some fun, anybody else's opinion of you doesn't mean a damn thing, because at the end of the day, this is about you, and it's about your journey, and it's about being the best you that you can possibly be, and absolutely nobody in the world has a right to impede on that. So I just kind of wanted to touch base on that with you guys, because and I know it sounds a little harsh, but it's the truth. Fuck what anybody thinks. It's not about them. It's about you. You go in there, you hold your head high. You have as much of a right to be there as anybody else, and you deserve to be there as much as anybody else. I don't give a crap about, you know, what your fitness level is, what your experience is, what kind of shape you're in. You have every right to be there. So at the end of the day, you just kind of have to look inside of yourself, set those things aside. It's natural to be a little bit insecure if you're in a new environment, but at the same time, fuck what anybody thinks. This is about you. And nobody has a right to ostracize you. Everybody's just as scared as you are. And just do your thing. Honestly, for me, the gym saved my life, and we'll talk about that later on. And that's why I'm still working out as much as I'm working out. God knows. I mean, I was a crazy little kid, and I was on a bad path. And you know, I got into rugby, and I got okay at rugby, pretty decent at rugby, and then I was playing with fully grown adults, and it became a survival mechanism. Well, I need to get bigger. These guys are going to kill me. So that's kind of how it started. We'll get into that later. I don't want to rant on too much about that. The last thing I do want to rant on about, I know it's 11, we're about almost 12 minutes into this, but I do want to give you guys some information to get you set up, is anybody who's making substitutions on their meal list. And I'm going to actually do like a little demo of how to do this in the coming days, how you can use MyFitnessPal, and I'll record my screen to kind of show you how you can sub things out. But I know some of you guys are comfortable with macros. One thing that I do suggest is if you're just trying to hit those calories, carb choices, guys, carbohydrates choices. It's extremely important. And the reason why it's extremely important is because the type of carbohydrates that you choose are going to affect your insulin levels. And your insulin levels are ultimately what are going to choose what your body is going to use to decide to store things to become fat, or whether or not you're actually going to use it for muscle. Now, when your insulin levels spike, that's usually caused by, it's caused by carbohydrates. It can be caused by fat as well. But when you're choosing your carbohydrates, you want to choose complex carbohydrates. And I'll run this through you guys a little bit. Complex carbohydrates break down slowly. They break down slowly, and they feed your muscles slowly, and your insulin doesn't spike as much. And we'll talk about the insulin response in a little bit more detail later on. But complex carbohydrates tend to be, and we're not talking about whole grain bread here. We're talking about whole grains. We're talking about oatmeal, quinoa, sweet potato. If you guys want some examples of that, just hit up Google. What is a complex carbohydrate? Complex carbohydrate examples. You want to make sure that if you're trying to hit that carb level, that you're not looking at the back of a Gatorade, which has 40 grams of sugar, and okay, that's fine. And it is fine, but are all calories created equal? Not necessarily. And the reason why is there's the different types of carbohydrates are absorbed at different rates into your system. For example, sugar, glucose, the most basic form of carbohydrate, goes in your system, gets used up by your system, spikes your insulin until your insulin levels start telling your body to start storing things as fat, right? So glucose, the most basic form of sugar, which is essentially unrefined, unprocessed sugar. There's other stuff as well, like lactose, which is a sugar that's found in milk. And there is, of course, fructose, which is a sugar that is found in fruit. I'm not a huge fan of fruits. We'll get to that later on. But ultimately, you want to be choosing carbohydrates that are going to break down slowly. And anything that's high in sugar, anything that's a basic sugar is going to come to your system. It's going to spike your insulin, and it's kind of going to do the opposite of what you're looking to do. As well as, I'm not a huge fan of fruit, because even though fructose does break down a little bit slower, it tends to be accompanied by fiber. At this point, we're just looking for some lean, good muscle. So I really encourage you guys to choose complex carbohydrates if you're going to be doing any substitutions with MyFitnessPal. And we'll kind of break down a little bit more later on. I don't want to rant on too long, but your carbohydrate choice in terms of where you want to be and the efficiency and your overall progress is a massive, massive, massive thing, right? Eating a candy bar that has 40 grams of sugar or 40 grams of carbohydrates is not the same as eating 40 grams worth of carbohydrates found in sweet potato. They're going to break down, they're going to fuel your body, they're going to fuel your workouts, you're going to build lean muscle, and it's going to have a positive effect because it's not going to spike your insulin. So just a few things to throw at you guys for today. I apologize if it seems like I'm talking really fast or I'm ranting. I'm just trying to get some basic things out to you guys. If you have any questions at all, if you want research, if you want proof, if you have any opposing views, feel free to post them below this video. I promise you I'm going to take them into consideration. We can talk about it, and we'll kind of go from there. Ultimately, if it initiates a conversation, then that's a beautiful thing. So that's all I really have for you guys today. I'll be posting tomorrow as well. I'll probably be posting every day this week until we kind of get situated and we've dealt with a lot of the issues or a lot of the questions you might have. But I guess the motto for today is go in there, find some good music. Music is amazing for working out. Puts you in your own zone. You can do your own thing, throw in your tunes, go in there. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks about you. Be kind. Be courteous, wipe your machines down when you're done. You know what I mean? Don't spend too much time on one machine. Allow other people to work in with you. You know, carry yourself with dignity, carry yourself with respect, be polite. But at the same time, and once again, sorry for the harshness, fuck what anybody thinks. This is about you. This is your journey, and nobody has any right in the world to be there any more than you do. So that's all I'm going to leave you guys with today. I am going to go and kill my workout and complain about it on Facebook later. I hope you guys are all having an amazing day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.